That is called the remembrance of the Devas. So that means the Deva states, like fortunate states. So that is also one thing to remember about the future. Altogether these 6 recollections, or six remembrance that we should apply in our daily lives. It's very important for ourselves to understand the real meaning of meditation and how it works. We often have this kind of false interpretation. Meditation is always some special exercise that we have to do something apart from our daily life, apart from our life, some special thing to do, which a special time, special place, special position, which we have been talking about yesterday and so on. That is incorrect. That is this narrow view. Meditation should be, the entire life should be meditation. Our daily life has to transform into meditation or into the practice of Dharma. That's all synonym. That is important. So that comes through, especially in our mind, changing our view, changing our also reflections, what we are aware of. We are all time aware of something, many special objects. Just as Buddha is recommending to be aware of the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and giving and ethics, etc. In the same way, what we are using until now, we are aware of our wife, our husband, our children, so with certain number, and then hopefully also our parents. That's very important. Buddha also said never to forget them. So anyway, our parents, and then maybe a few other sentient beings whom we call as our friends or our business partner, things like that. And then some object. And a very important object is the money, etc. So there are few quite indispensable things to think about, to remember. We have to remember that every day, morning till evening, we have to think about that. Remember, those are the mindfulnesses that we are trained with. Due to following an old system, old samsaric system, we are used to that also from the very beginning. That way we are habituated, so that our life is spent only on the reflection of these objects, few objects. That kind of familiarization, that kind of mindfulness, that kind of concern, that kind of the concentration and focus of the mind, which we are practicing all the time. That is our meditation now. We are doing, we are not at all, not only now learning meditate, we have been meditating from the moment we can think about something, then we do that. Of course, such attention, such remembrance, such concern has some also its own meaning, has a temporary meaning. So if one apply those reflection, those concentration, those remembrance, those awareness, without too much influence by the delusions of desire, hatred and jealousy and so on, instead, if possible, in a neutral way, and if possible in a skillful and wholesome way, then that serves some purpose, a temporary beneficial purpose for oneself and also maybe for some others. So in the practice of Dharma, what one really, if somebody really wishes to practice Dharma or will practice, then one has to replace them. Replace these objects of all our attention. Not totally, I don't mean totally, but the priority that we are giving to such objects due to its temporary nature and so forth. So therefore it is important not to remain only bound to such objects and to put all one's mental energy or for the sake of such object. Also we have to add and actually give the priority to those objects of our occupation of our mind, which is lasting, which is permanent and lasting and the long-term benefit. So because of such understanding, then one has to give, if not more, but the equal the dedication, the equal the consecration of our energies, especially of our mind, our involvement with such objects like the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, generosity and ethic, for example. These 6 points are so very inclusive, because since our situation is like that of a ailing person, then one requires a doctor and caretaker. That is the 3 jewels. Dharma is our real medicine that cures us. Buddha is the one perfectly who gives us such a method. Sangha is the one who really helps us to attain that full recovery. So those are indispensable. And then, in relation to ourselves, there are 2 things to do. Something to fulfill the benefit of the others. One is practice of generosity. Something which secures our own security and a good basis, that is ethic. So when these 5, when these are the ethic and generosity practice, then also it follows the positive, the result out of that. That is the fortunate rebirth. That is our future plan, because we also need to plan for the future. Therefore, these 6 collections which Buddha taught are so very meaningful. That's the important 6 objects on which we have to focus our mind. And as much as we are focused upon also a great number of other things in our life, as I mentioned before, in the same way we should also focus on the 6 objects also. When that happens, not only our temporary benefits, but also temporary and long-term benefit are secured. That is what meditation is all about, what you should think about in the mind. That is something very, very concrete, connected with our own life, Buddha teaches. Nothing so extraordinary. So therefore that is very important to understand with the practice of Dharma, with the practice of meditation. Practice of meditation especially, as I said before, it is this occupation of mind, this mindfulness, this concentration, this contemplation. That's what we are doing all time. But the subjects or the objects are different, as I said before. And that has to be changed. One can, of course, drastically change everything, then put everything upside down, then enlightenment will be the next day. But nobody is able to do that, and also Buddha never has demanded us to do like that. Something quite impossible, so one has to gradually bring about the transformation, gradually sure, but without a delay. So because of that reason, Buddha has also emphasized at the beginning, in the middle, at the end, everywhere, a most important subject of meditation, that is impermanence. So the impermanence is always there. So therefore there's not much time for us to go too gradually. Gradually sure, because that's only our possible way, but gradually does not mean lazily. So these points, and that we usually study, we learn these classifications in our Dharma studies. So it's very important to know them first, their names and so on, definitions and so on, but it's not enough, but also to understand their direct meaning, the meaning which is related to ourselves. That's very important, because each and every point of the Dharma, each and every subject of Dharma and their classification and all those things is all about ourselves. It's all about our own, the base, our own path or our own goal. There's nothing other than that. So therefore, in that context, if we understand these classifications, these details of the Dharma, then it becomes living Dharma. Otherwise, it is just only intellectual themes that one learns and that one can also say to somebody else. If somebody asks, what are the 6 remembrances? All 6 remembrances is the remembrances of the Buddha, remembrances of the Dharma, remembrances of the Sangha, remembrances of this generosity, remembrance. Okay, very good, you pass. And that is not sufficient. Of course, one has to start from somewhere there, but one has to finally recognize these things within oneself, or if they are not yet within oneself, at least we should recognize them that as the object of all our aspiration. So that way one has to understand Dharma, then everything becomes meaningful. And also we generally, as Buddha has taught, and this is not only Buddha's teaching, but we all know on our very fundamental present level, we consist of 5 skandhas, 5 aggregates. We are consisting of the 5 Indryas, that means 5 organs. That means our visual organ, and then ear organ, and olfactory organ, gustatory organ, mental organ, etc. There are 5 sense organs. We speak of that we are. That is the reality with ourselves. Buddha said that is what we all possess, but we need to develop additional organs, additional 5 organs. What are 5 Indryas? What is 5 Indryas? Indryas, the organ of faith, enthusiasm, perseverance, remembrance, concentration, and intelligence, wisdom. So this also something we need to. We already possess these 5 sense organs, which we are using all the time. And we have also 5 sense consciousnesses, which are based on these organs that are always functioning, which enable us to see, to hear, and so on. That is functioning well. And however, that's not enough. One needs the additional 5 organs. That is, these are all that has to develop in our mind. That is the faith, enthusiasm, perseverance, the remembrance, and concentration, and intelligence. When those are developed, then we are really with full organs. Otherwise, we are in a kind of handicap. Also in the same way, Buddha taught, just like 5 organs, we also need in the same way these same 5 faculties that we mentioned also apply to the strength. We always talk about the strength of our arms, or strength of our legs, etc., and strength of our army, or strength, so many strength, physical strength, and powers and strength. Balas, they are also in the same way. There are many different kinds of strengths, what we try to build up. Strengths of arms, bicep, and the 6 packs, something like that, and or strengths of our legs, and also many things of our chest, and so on. There's so many, the bodybuilders have to develop each of those strengths, which anyway is subject to flop one day, totally, and when they flop, then it looks much more unpleasant than the normal bodies. So as long as these muscles are still hold its kind of hard texture, with very torturing hard works, then it stays okay. But when it's extreme, it also looks very too much. But anyway, sooner or later they all flop. So after it becomes really quite unpleasant and even not that healthy. So anyway, people try to get all kinds of strengths. So in the same way, there are 5 strengths that we talk about. But balas, pancha balas, when Buddha applies these 5 things, these indriyas. In the same way, we need the strength of the faith, enthusiasm, perseverance. Enthusiasm, perseverance is the wholesome energy. And then the strength of the mindfulness, strength of concentration, strength of the intelligence. These are strengths. These are real strength that one has to develop. But here then, we are still not at all well developed. I don't know if even Schwarzenegger has developed them. Maybe he developed them, I don't know. But anyway, maybe not that strong in these strength. But anyway, becoming old, does not know 6 packs. 6 bumps on the muscle on the stomach. So therefore, these are things that can be developed and will need to be developed. And when they are developed, that brings a real, ordinary benefits for oneself and all sentient beings. And there is every human being, especially these are the great chance and possibilities that humans particularly possess. Every human being, regardless of our age or our look or whatever, our race or whatever, without any difference whatsoever, even our age whatsoever, has the same possibility and the chance to develop all these qualities. Therefore, in sutras also it is emphasized, what the humans with their strength of their mind, what they have obtained, no gods or no Gandharvas or no Maharajas and all those, that means many different kinds of spirits and so on, have ever attained. And Buddha has shown exactly the methods of how to develop these important potentialities of ourselves that we naturally possess. So that is what actually, ultimately what is beneficial for ourselves also to possess, to accomplish. And also, as I said before, we spend so much energy for the sake of our dear ones, our loved ones. If we really wish to also help them, really take care of them, we also help them to develop that same, those virtues, those wholesome qualities, help them as well. Then really our loving them, our taking care of them, then becomes really meaningful. Then even if one takes a lot of care and conform with their wishes or whatsoever, in which we sacrifice lots of our energies, but with little result, only on a temporary effect. Sometimes with little benefit of temporary effect, with a big or long-term negative effect also. So that is not the wise way to deal with. One has to develop oneself these qualities which are mentioned before, and also develop those qualities through the proper means. The same way we can also help those dear ones also to help them also develop that same, what are really beneficial in the long term. Then the whole relationships and our empathy, or our family empathy, or our empathy towards our friends or whatsoever, is then justified. Then will become meaningful. What we just gone through before, these 6 kind of, which Buddha recommended, the remembrance of Buddha, Dharma Sangha, and then giving or generosity ethic. So here generosity does not mean only in terms of giving, material giving. That is a part of that. Giving or sharing, that is part of that. But it's not only limited with giving here in a broader sense. Giving of material support, or that means such kind of support in our ordinary life, whatever it is, material gifts or supporting in case of illness or whatever, helping the others free from their such kind of suffering. So those methods is one form of generosity. And then there is the generosity of giving. Giving material constitutes all of them. And then giving security, or giving what is called fearlessness. That's directly, literally the fearlessness. That means giving security. That is not only the saving lives of those who are in the danger of life, that of course without any question, but any kind of security. Even security in the mind of somebody, through our assisting, through our supporting, and that way somebody feels secure. And of course then security of one's life. And that kind of support is also, especially the saving lives who are suffering from the danger of life, giving that kind of support is also very important generosity. And then above all, the giving of the dharma, that is the best of all kind of giving or sharing, that is sharing the wisdom of the dharma with others. In order to share with others, first one should have something to share. But if oneself is lacking, everything empty, there's nothing to share. So first one has to acquire some wealth of the dharma in oneself, and not only a lot of talkings, but like I'm doing now, but also some experience, some realizations, and that way sharing the knowledge of the dharma with others, and up to this, starting from such sharing up to giving just one sincere advice to somebody, sincerely, which requires a really good, wholesome advice, that all comes under the so-called the giving of the Dharma. So therefore, this practice of generosity, Buddha said, remember generosity, it does not mean only giving alms to the beggars. That of course, without any question, but it is much broader than that. It has all the three kind of generosity that should be also integrated in the life of a Dharma practitioner. If one lives with such a practice of generosity, then one's practice of Dharma is already on a very good way. So therefore, in one way, all the direct practice of Dharma is all included in generosity. So therefore, Buddha emphasized very much on the practice of generosity. Generosity in ethic. Ethic is what one requires for oneself to free oneself from the chain of negative karma and thereby from the chain of sufferings. Therefore, one needs to practice ethics. And then one needs to fulfill the needs and help the other sentient where one needs generosity. So these two are very important that one has to integrate in one's life. And then remembering the Dharma, especially the essence of the Dharma, such as the interdependent existence of the phenomena, the law of cause and effect, etc. And then also remembering the source of such wisdom, the enlightened ones, as really the best guide and also best example to follow. And then also understand those who are actually following such Dharma and developing such Dharma in one's mind also as the best companion, best example to follow. And then one fulfills these 6 recollections or 6 mindfulnesses. Actually, all the practice of Dharma are included in these 6 mindfulnesses. In the sutras and also Master Nagarjuna always speaks about, there are 4 auspicious things. There are 4 auspicious things that has to exist in the world. For the world to become a really wholesome world, there should be 4 auspicious. Chatru Mangalam Dharma. That means here Dharma is not Dharma teaching, but more like things or qualities or phenomena. That the 4 things has to flourish in the world. That makes our world also very auspicious. And what are there? There are 2 causes and 2 results. So therefore, the Master Nagarjuna says, prosperity and Dharma, and happiness and liberation. So altogether, they are 4 things. 2 are causes and 2 are results. That means prosperity has to flourish in the world, so from prosperity comes the happiness in the world, well-being. If there is great lack of everything, and then there is no way whatsoever for the beings to experience any happiness. Prosperity is important, and from that comes happiness. But is that sufficient? That is not sufficient, because not only happiness, but what is important is also liberation from all the sufferings. That is very important, ultimately. So what comes, that comes from what? From Dharma. So therefore, there are 2 things, Dharma, prosperity and Dharma, and happiness and liberation. When all these 4 things, so when these 4 points are available in the world, then there is a real happiness in the world. So therefore, and how does that prosperity come? That prosperity comes from generosity only. The practice of generosity, the definition of that is giving. That means let go. Let go. That is, the generosity is not that thing that you give. Generosity is that attitude of the mind of giving away. Let go something for the benefit of others. That is giving. So therefore, when that attitude in the mind of these sentient beings, if we have such attitude of mind of sharing or giving away for the benefit of others, then comes the happiness also in the world. Instead of that, if everyone holds to their own possessions, their own belonging, and hold them all for oneself, and very strongly clinging to them, because of egoism, because of because of the miserliness and such kind of avarice and these kind of things, with strong binding, like chain with which we are bound with our possessions. When that happens, there will reign in the world poverty and great sufferings. So instead, if people generate the attitude of sharing and giving away, not holding everything back to oneself, then even though there could be some who has so much more than, over more than they need, but that does not mean that the world is prosperous. It means that all beings in the world also obtain what they actually require. That is, when that happens, no such problems of poverty and all these kind of things, which is one main source of sufferings of the people in the world. Then begins the actually happiness, the temporary happiness, which is a necessary base for. If there is this basic fundamental happiness totally lacking, then dharma also, the higher happiness to attain, all that efforts that's required for that, cannot develop properly, because as long as one's basic situation, one's existence is so miserable. For example, somebody is so very sick and so very ill, then for somebody like that, somebody comes, oh, you have to practice Dharma, you do this and that. This is not the right way. First, the Buddha also then taught all these right procedures, what first has to be, what problem is first to be dealt, and then deeper and deeper. So there are moments when is the right moment to give the teaching of Dharma and when not. So therefore somebody who is desperately hungry and nothing to eat, about to die, and then come and say, oh, you meditate, and you meditate on whatever Buddha or something, that is incorrect. That is not, it's not possible. So therefore first this problem has to be solved through another means, through generosity, another kind of generosity, and then when that is solved, then one has to show the ultimate way of the liberation through another higher level of generosity. So this way one has to proceed. So therefore these so-called four perfections of the world also depends upon the practice of generosity, of the ordinary generosity, of material generosity, as well as generosity of the Dharma, sharing of the material goods and sharing of the Dharma.